Wu Xieyu was the second highest rated student in Fuzhou, China, a city of nearly 8 million people. His future appeared to be bright and limitless, but in a shocking twist of fate, he would go on to commit a heinous crime that would send shockwaves through China, exposing layers of deception, leaving people horrified and confused. Wu Xieyu was born in 1995 and was the only child in his family. He grew up in Fuzhou City, the capital of the Chinese province Fujian. He was raised by two loving parents who pushed him to reach his potential. His grandparents had lived a life in poverty. However, his parents had broken that cycle and had high hopes for Wu Xieyu. His father went to university and was a civil servant, while his mother was a dedicated middle school history teacher. From a young age, Wu Xieyu excelled in academics. He would routinely score first place in academic challenges and was regularly at the top of his class for annual exams. He was the pride of his family, and when he took the national college entrance exam and ranked among the top in the whole country, they saw his future as truly limitless. Nobody could have predicted he would go on to become a methodical, callous killer. In 2010, at the age of 15, Wu Xieyu lost his father to liver cancer. This was devastating to the family. Wu Xieyu and his mother both fell into depression. However, they remained hardworking. His mother even refused financial help from family and worked harder to provide for them. Wu Xieyu continued to excel in school, and in 2012, he was admitted to the School of Economics at the prestigious Peking University in Beijing. While he was away at college, his relationship with his mother remained strong. They spoke on the phone every evening. Throughout his freshman year, he remained disciplined in his studies and active in his social life, all while going to bed every night at 11 p.m. He received a coveted award for his academics his freshman year and maintained his studies into his sophomore year, receiving scholarships for his grades totaling over 10,000 yen. But things began to change the second semester. Starting in January of 2015, he began missing classes and his grades started to slip. He wasn't seen in the dorms much, but students assumed he was busy because at that time everybody was busy. They were in and out, gone for internships and other opportunities. And by the fall, he was nowhere to be found on campus. Friends and family believed he and his mother had moved to the United States, where Wu Xieyu was to attend MIT. But as time went on, things were not as they seemed. In February 2016, one of Wu Xieyu's uncles went to their home after he was unable to speak to Wu Xieyu or his mother. After knocking on the door and getting no response, he sensed something was off. He immediately called the police, who broke into the house and discovered one of the most unsettling scenes that you can imagine. And in doing so, they would uncover secrets and lies, leading to a national manhunt. When officials entered the home, they immediately noticed that they were under surveillance of multiple cameras throughout the house. And when they made their way into a bedroom, they discovered another camera pointed at the bed, and on top of the bed was the body of Xie Tianxin, Wu Xieyu's mother. Her body had been wrapped in 75 layers of plastic sheets, with activated charcoal in between each layer to absorb odor. There were air purifiers and dehumidifiers around the room, and police couldn't help but notice how clean and tidy everything appeared. Upon inspection of Xie Tianxin's body, it showed signs of blunt force trauma to the front and back of her head. It was also noted that her body appeared to have signs indicating someone attempted to dissect it. Wu Xieyu immediately became a wanted man, and his life of crime would continue. When details of the crime reached the media, it became a huge talking point. People speculated on where he was hiding or if he had fled the country. Nobody could piece together how a brilliant student who had a seemingly great relationship with his mother could murder her in cold blood and lie to everyone for months. To piece this together, we have to go back to January of 2015. because it's at this time he began thinking about killing his mom. In the spring months, he started buying items online to prepare for the act. Among the things he bought were mildew-proof bags, isolation suits, doctor's knives, and saw blades. And on June 30th, he flew home inside of his checked luggage were his neatly organized tools and supplies he planned to use. He lived with his mom for 10 days as if everything was normal. Neighbors reported seeing the mother and son together, and everything appeared as though they were happily reunited. On July 10th, Shi Tiaqin was enjoying the first day of her summer vacation. School had just ended for her students the day before, and she was eager to have time to spend with her son. But tragically, her life was cut short that day. As she returned home from errands, she bent down to take her shoes off. And once she did this, her son, Wu Xieyu, struck her in the back of the head with a dumbbell, and again in the front of her face. He then spent the rest of the month meticulously cleaning the home and staging it. He checked into a nearby hotel and would go back and forth to the home. It was during this time that he wrapped her body and installed the surveillance system connected to his phone so he could be notified when the home was entered and access a live feed. He used the air purifiers and dehumidifiers to create the perfect environment to hide any smell that would arise. Then on July 31st, he checked into a luxury hotel and spent over 10,000 yen partying with escorts. In the following weeks, he devised a plan to get more money. He sent messages to relatives from his mother's phone, stating that Wu Xieyu would be going to MIT and she would be moving to the United States with him. Posing as his mom, he asked if they could help out financially with the move. Of course, they happily put money into her account, and in total, Wu Xieyu defrauded them of 1.44 million yen, the equivalent of over 200,000 US dollars. With his mother's cell phone and bank card in hand, he moved to Shanghai and lived with a sex worker. He was clever enough to fabricate a resignation letter for his mom before he left. He knew by killing her on the first day of summer vacation, her absence would go largely unnoticed for a while. And shortly before school was set to start, he made a resignation letter by taking her diary and copying words to create the letter. School officials thought it was odd that it wasn't handwritten or typed, but it appeared to have been photocopied. But because the letter stated she was moving to the US to support her son, it made sense to them because she had told them what an excellent student he was. By February of 2016, he had blown through nearly all of the money. He had spent 580,000 yen on the lottery, and another $200,000 he gave to an escort as a marriage proposal. By the time police entered the home, he had only 90,000 yen left in the account. And as soon as police entered, he saw via surveillance and pulled out the remaining money within minutes. He would evade police for years. During this time, he accumulated fake IDs and got various jobs, such as teaching under a fake name. And after a short time teaching, he began working in a nightclub as a male model. Under his new identity, people would say that he was non-confrontational and shy. He blended in with the nightlife crowd. He rented an apartment and often met with sex workers. Years would go by, and he kept a low profile. All the while, there were wanted posters with his picture on them in cities around the country. But his luck wouldn't last long. On April 20th, 2019, almost 4 years after Shi Tiaqin was murdered, Wu Xieyu was dropping a female friend off at Chongqing Jiangbei Airport when the airport's facial recognition system, known as Sky Eye, recognized his face as a 98% match to the photos from his wanted posters years before. Police immediately pulled him aside and scanned his ID, and after discovering it was fake, they questioned him, asking if he is the person in the wanted notice. Wu Xieyu responded, quote, "There's no need to say anything. I'll go with you." Following his capture, there were still many unanswered questions, namely why? Why did he kill his mother? Well, there's the reason he gave in court, Then there's the reason that has been widely speculated in China. What he would tell the court was that after the death of his father, his mother became very depressed, and he thought that her life had lost meaning. He said she had a difficult life, and she read a lot of books that had sad undertones. One of his mother's favorite authors, Leslie Chung, died by jumping from a hotel, and he assumed that his mom wanted to die too. He claimed to the courts that his plan was to kill himself after, but said after he saw how horrible death was, he changed his mind. It was clear that he was going with a defense of putting his mother out of her misery and claiming to then kill himself to be reunited with his father. However, this doesn't explain why he waited until her first day of summer. If that was his true plan, he could have done it on any day, but he specifically waited until her disappearance could go unnoticed. When asked about his mother, he said that she was the hardest worker, best wife, and most loving mother. He knew that she would do anything for him. The most heartbreaking part of the court proceeding to hear was when he was asked if his mother told him her password to her bank card, to which he replied, "She never told me the password, but I could guess it was my birthday." On May 30th, 2023, he was sentenced to death for the premeditated murder of his mother. He is expected to be executed soon, as in China, they don't waste much time. This is despite him asking the court to spare him and let him work. He told the court he wouldn't waste an hour, but the penalty he received was expected because he clearly showed intent. But his reasons for the murder were heavily debated. What he said in court was not widely accepted as truth, and the facts and timeline seem to support this alternate theory to me as well. It's believed that during the second semester of his sophomore year, he developed a pornography addiction and began to spend his time and money on sex. So much so that days after receiving his second scholarship, he had to borrow money from a dorm mate to go home, leading them to believe that he had spent all his scholarship money at the brothel. It's believed he had so much guilt that he was afraid of the shame he would feel when his mother found out. So rather than killing her out of mercy, he killed her because he couldn't handle her reaction. He didn't want her to know what he'd been doing. This was further amplified by officials revealing that he covered her face with a dish so he wouldn't have to see her. He also burned his laptop in an effort to destroy the hundreds of pornographic videos on it. Then, to fuel his sex addiction, he lied and defrauded his family. He then fulfilled his desires until he was eventually caught. Now, this version seems the most plausible to me. There was just too much planning that coincided with his behavior shift and sudden spending. I think he made up the Mercy story as a cover. This was a shocking case that just makes you think of what could have been. He had such a bright future with a supportive mother who was so proud of him and would have done anything for him. Overall, it's just sad, but I think justice was served, and something I can respect about China is they don't play with killers. Wu Xieyu will be executed before year's end. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.